Hi, I'm Adam Griswold, director, producer, writer, usually actor, camera operator, editor, special effects artist, lyricist, occasionally production designer, makeup artist, and probably a bunch of other things for more than a dozen films under the banner of Smoking Bottle Entertainment. And as of this year, 2021, I have been doing this for a full decade.
There is definitely something here. I don't know what, but Go! Save yourself!
So we go forward. "10 years of Smoking Bottle Entertainment. In a way, it is weird that this has gone on for so long. I honestly feel like back in 2011, starting out, I never would have thought that we'd be marking this occasion, because I feel like I would have thought that in 10 years, either everything would have completely fallen apart and I would have had to stop making films or pause for a while, or that at some point some big opportunity would have come along and I would have moved on to bigger and better things. But neither of those things happened. We're still doing this, but it's not like everything's the same as it was 10 years ago. We have come a long way. A lot has happened, and a lot of it's been stressful and crazy, and a lot of it's been awesome and exciting. And today, whenever you're watching this, we are going to look back at the first 10 years of Smoking Bottle Entertainment. I feel like I could honestly, conceivably spend this whole thing just talking about the previous decade from 2001 through 2011, because it kind of feels like, in a way, everything over the course of that decade led up to the start of my producing films. But I'll try to just cover the highlights. I guess we'll start with the name, Smoking Bottle Entertainment, because people always ask me where that name came from. It came from the title of a film I did in high school. I have had films in my head since at least kindergarten, maybe before then, but it was in middle school, high school that I first got the chance to actually make films. My high school had a theater program, but no real film classes or anything. But occasionally in English or history class, there'd be an assignment to research medieval Europe and present your findings in the form of a video, or adapt Oedipus Rex in some new context or whatnot. And so it was projects like that where I really started to get this passion for making films. And so when I got to my third year of high school, I was really starting to get into filmmaking. I had a digital camera, I had editing software on my computer, I made a few films with my brother and my cousins that summer, and about midway through the school year, I was assigned a project to make a video about life in America in the 1920s during the Prohibition era. And I went way beyond what the assignment was. I made a 30-minute narrative movie, sort of a film noir spoof with voiceover narration, subtitles. It starts in black and white and then it goes to color for some reason. I just tried to pull out all the stops and do everything I could with editing, and it's a film about a detective in the 1920s on the trail of Al Capone, and it all kicks off when someone finds an empty beer bottle, and it's the Prohibition era, and alcohol is illegal, so it just leads into this whole thing, and so the bottle is the smoking gun, or the smoking bottle. And that never gets spelled out in the dialogue of the film, because I made up the title after we had shot the whole thing, but that film ended up being my high watermark for a few years. I didn't necessarily think it would be at the time. I had other films I'd hoped to make with some people in the summer, but those plans never really worked out, and I was never assigned any other video projects for the rest of high school. And then I went to college for film production, but during that time I was never really able to make any films that I was really happy with. The whole curriculum was almost trying to be too professional, too fast, and just a very assembly line approach to the process. And also, the film program I was in was becoming increasingly outdated as I was there. There was a lot of technological advancement in the mid to late 2000s. You had quality cameras and editing software becoming available during that time. YouTube became a thing right around then. So the film I did in high school, Smoking Bottle, just kind of became this thing like, I want to make more movies like that. Why can't I? That was so cool. That was so much fun. And I had so many other ideas would go through my head. I had this period of 6 or 7 years where I just wanted to make movies, but just aside from a few small things, nothing ever came together. I'd occasionally fall in with groups of people who were interested in making films, but either people would lose interest before we'd really do anything, or we'd do one project that I'd help out with, and then things would fizzle out and we'd never do anything else, or just people would move away. It was just something would always happen. It was shortly after I finished college that I got involved with a couple of films that were shooting in Boston and New Hampshire, doing some PA work, and on one of those films I started talking to a group of people, of actors and filmmakers who were interested in doing their own films, and we started talking about maybe once this film wraps we can all get together and make some short films, and that was what I had been wanting to do for several years leading up to that. And the experience on that film ended up inspiring the script for the first Smoking Bottle Entertainment film to be written, which was, of course, Lights, Camera, Terror. Our experience making this movie gave me this whole idea about a film crew trying to make a movie in a haunted house, and them getting killed off one by one, and for a while we were talking about making that film, but it just kept getting put on the back burner as other people's projects took priority, and without going into detail, tensions started flaring up amongst the group, and the group kind of got smaller and smaller, and at a certain point it was decided that it maybe was best not to make that film right then, because it was based on then recent events and maybe was hitting a little too close to home. And because I really wanted to make a film of my own, I sort of retooled it into something completely different. I took the same basic horror premise of a group of people go to a place and get picked off one by one, but just moved it to a completely different setting. I dropped the film crew concept, and instead of a haunted house, I set the new script in a forest that was rife with urban legends that people told about it. And this script ended up being called the Dolchemock Tapes. So we were down to a really small group at this point, and none of us had quality equipment, so we made the decision to make the Dolchemock Tapes into a found footage movie, because that would justify us just shooting the whole thing with a cheap camcorder. And so over the course of the summer, we found locations, cast a few actors. We had the whole thing ready to shoot around like late July, early August, and then it all fell apart. Something fell through with the location we were using, or I don't know, somehow, but the people who had been helping me produce this film at that point just had scheduling conflicts for the next few months, and I was put in a position where the only way to get the film done was to move forward entirely by myself, cast some new actors, find a new location, schedule the whole thing myself. And I've always been a socially awkward person. For years, my biggest struggle in making films was this feeling that I needed someone else to handle all of the casting and scheduling and organizing everything, because I just wasn't a people person. That wasn't a thing I could do. And so being put in this position where the film was not going to get finished unless I met with strangers and had to judge their acting ability was terrifying to me at the time. And I really found myself questioning if it was worth it. it was a script that was conceived to be something that would be easy to do just with a small group of friends, and it had just turned into so much trouble, and pre-production had dragged on for the whole summer and then completely fallen apart. And I was wondering, is it even worth it to continue with this? And maybe it wasn't. Maybe the Dolchemock Tapes by itself wasn't worth pushing myself way outside my comfort zone to finish, but I just started thinking, the films I really want to do were all these large-scale fantasy films and musicals and things with a ton of actors and special effects and stuff. And if I can't do this simple movie with a half dozen people in the woods, it's not going to get easier from here. If I give up on this, that's it. I mean, I'm basically saying I don't have it in me to do this. So I sort of reframed it in my mind that this isn't about the Dolchemock Tapes. This is about everything that could come beyond this. So I went forward. I put up a casting notice on New England Film. I almost wasn't expecting to get much of a response. We'd had a casting call earlier, and the only person who showed up was this guy named Colin.
I first met Adam back in 2011 on the film of the Dolchemock Tapes, which I think was his first movie. I saw this ad somewhere. I think it was on one of the Boston websites. I think it was Beantown something. I don't know.
But when I put up my own ad on New England Film, I was suddenly inundated with people who wanted to audition, and which is weird because at the time there was no such thing as Smoking Bottle Entertainment. It was just my name and my email address, and if you Googled me, you wouldn't have even found anything about any films I'd really done at that point. But I had, probably within a few days, I had 30 to 40 people sending me headshots and resumes, and I was totally overwhelmed. And it's like, I don't know if this makes any sense to people who don't suffer from some degree of social anxiety, but on one hand, it was horrifying, and on the other hand, it's like, all these people want to be in my movie. I had my casting call in the corner of a nearby Starbucks because just having to ask somebody's permission to use a place for auditions was just a step beyond what I was willing to do at that point. Just auditioning actors by itself was scary enough for me. And so on that Sunday morning, I drove down there just feeling like there's no turning back now. This is a lesson to all you actors that sometimes when you're going to an audition, the person you are auditioning for is more scared of you than you are of them. So Holly Travis was the first person to audition. She sat down. We talked a little bit about her acting experience. She read for the 2 roles I was casting. So far, so good. I handled myself well. And then, over the course of the day, more and more people showed up. By the end of it, I had Ali Mattiotto come in and talk to me for half an hour as if she'd known me forever, and somewhere in the middle of that, I was able to actually get her to audition.
Why did we call this guy out here?
Well, personally, I thought it would be fun. Hike out in the woods, see the great outdoors. Granted, that was before people started vanishing.
And I did it. I mean, kind of, because actually the script had 6 characters, and I had to cut that down to 4 because I couldn't get people for a couple of the roles, and at that point there was just no way I was going to find 2 more people. But I had Colin and Allie and Holly and myself playing the lead role because I decided early on that if it was a found footage movie, it made sense to play the guy holding the camera myself. And so I finally had a cast. I was able to set some dates in early September. And so, after all of that full summer of pre-production, all kinds of craziness, I finally got ready to send out the script and the shooting schedule to everybody, and my computer crashed. The night before I was ready to send everything out, it just stopped working, would not turn on. I had to reload an earlier draft of the script that I had backed up on a hard drive, onto another computer and then just sit down and try to make all the revisions I'd made from memory. And so, once I had done that, revised the whole script, typed up a whole schedule, I finally got it sent out to everybody. And then, on the morning of September 3rd, 2011, I met Colin Snyder, Holly Travis, and Ali Mattiotto at the Harold Parker State Forest, and we went into the woods and filmed a movie.
Expedition, day 1.
In all the years leading up to that, I don't think I ever would have expected that when I finally made a film, it would have been with a group that consisted entirely of people I had only met the month before. But that was how it worked out. And it also worked out that that film was the only one I made with a cast entirely consisting of people I met the month before, because those people stuck around. I don't think there was really even that much to say about the actual production of the Dolchemock Tapes. It was a film where it felt like it was harder to get to the starting line than to the finish line. We got through it in 2 days of shooting, about a week apart. No major issues once we got going. We did a lot of really long takes because with the found footage format, basically each scene was just one extended take, and that's different from really anything I've ever done since. There were a lot of mosquitoes too, I remember. That was the thing we had to deal with, mosquitoes. And I think I got poison ivy. That might have been when I went back myself to get the last couple of scenes. But we got it done. And then I had everyone over to my house to watch it on my projector. And that whole experience just gave me this wave of self-confidence that I feel like I've been riding ever since. A big part of it was the fact that it felt like the film really started moving forward when I took the reins myself, when the original group had to pull out, and auditioning actors by myself was just something that was so far outside my comfort zone at that time. But it paid off. And it just gave me this feeling like I can do anything now.
The time I've spent in this forest, I have never felt more alive. And so I'm glad I'm here.